Two. What's going on, guys? Back again. Are a little bit off schedule here. We're enjoying some good vacation time out in San Diego. One of our boys,
Yeah.
but
Some
yeah,
PTO in San Diego.
right, absolutely. But yeah, Unranked
Uh,
podcast back again. What we're gonna cover today? A little bit of football, Lions draft. Talk a little bit about Tim Tebow. A lot's going on swirling around him in the NFL right now. Definitely gonna talk about the
yeah.
NBA playoff picture and something I think is very important as well is talk about Dwayne Casey and that Pistons extension. So definitely talk through our thoughts on that. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
Eli, I'll go ahead and kick it to you first, man. What did you think about the draft? I feel like a lot of people, we didn't get the receivers they think we need and things along those lines. I personally thought it was a great draft, but I kind of let you go ahead and talk about what you thought.
Yeah, no, I would second that. I think it was a great draft as far as at least drafting for positions. I think you can build a championship, or let's just say let's eliminate championship and just say a solid playoff contender type of team. That you made the right moves, getting your first three picks were addressing O line, D line. I didn't think that Sewell would be able to fall to us. I didn't think that was possible, but when he ended up falling, that was a great thing to happen. Haven't fell in the lap. And then we made the right decision by picking him up. So I would say that was our first big thing that kind of caught my attention.
Yeah,
Next from there, I just like going D line back to back. That if you look at any of the good teams, historically speaking, that's how they did it. And then we went and addressed some of the other things, picked up a cornerback, picked up a receiver, some of the other things that just to kind of tailor off a good draft. But I personally liked what I seen. Um, Still not crazy about the coach, but I will say that being perfectly honest, this was a good decision across the board.
yeah, no, absolutely, man. I agree with that for sure. I think for me, I really do think that they did a good job with this draft. A lot of people, some people I talked to, they're a little frustrated because I guess they didn't get receivers and didn't have, had a chance to probably get, Devontae Smith, a couple other guys that, might have made an impact on offense. But I think people got to really remember, we don't have Stafford anymore. We got to be able to kind of build our team from the line of scrimmage, almost make it to where golf, make it to where he can't fail. We have to make it things comfortable for him, things easier for him. We no longer have Stafford back there that can kind of do a lot with a little bit, run around, improvise, throw all types of different windows and angles, just like that player who, everybody knows who Stafford was, what he meant to the Lions for the last 9 to 10 years. So I do love, we always talk about how we draft O-line, D-line, something we always chatted about. I do love how they started off basically with a line of scrimmage. I think every game is won and lost in the trenches. The NFL, they do throw the ball over the place nowadays, but I mean, perfect example is the Chiefs and the Bucks in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes running for his life, got all his talent all over the field, but he couldn't do anything because O-line wasn't there. O-line wasn't protecting him. The Bucks top 5 rush defense. They had a top 10 pass defense. They were in the backfield all night. So I think it was a great start. We'll see in due time. It's definitely going to be a project. I mean, the Lions every season is a project, seems to be. So Brad Holmes, I think, the new GM, I'm excited and glad to see the decisions he made.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with your statement on making golf comfortable. I think if you send him out there with a great receiver, yeah, that looks good on paper, but that doesn't make him probably nearly as comfortable as that giant at left tackle. I think that's uh, you're doing the good thing for the quarterback in that circumstance. You're going to try to keep him upright or whoever that circumstance is, because I don't think he's obviously our long term uh, option here. But I think if we fill out that line, then it doesn't really matter who we more or less can plug in at quarterback, running back, things on those nature. Yeah, so I would second everything you said here, and it's just interesting to see, just kind of more or less something I just seen or read. They already got us projected the second pick in the draft next year and taking the quarterback from USC. So, that's what we have to look forward to. So,
Right. Yeah, definitely don't have a ton of expectations. I mean, I think the funny thing about this season is they got, one additional game, 17 games total. So it's just another week
you can
of
do it.
pain. for us Lions fans. So, and I think too, man, like people, that are saying they might not have the weapons. I mean, people forget, still got like DeAndre Swift. Pretty sure Adrian Peterson might be back. They got that tight
Hawkinson.
end, Hawkinson. Receivers, not familiar with who a ton of them are, but I do like that pick they got. Amon St. Brown from
Yep, yep.
USC.
He's
Um,
very solid.
very solid. He's like a big, strong, possession receiver. I think he'll literally be able to come right in, and play right away. This guy named Quintus Cephas that went to Wisconsin last year, or sorry, not last year, graduated from Wisconsin. He came on a little bit towards the end of last year, made a couple big catches. Was kind of getting more into his own. So there's definitely some weapons there. But I think you gotta, if you want golf to be able to utilize those weapons, you got to be able to protect them.
Yeah, yeah. And no, I agree. I think we're headed in the right direction with that in general. I think so. I wasn't mad at that at all, but anything we did really.
Right.
So yeah, good
Yeah.
draft for them.
Yeah. 100%.
Agree.
But yeah. Next
Get into
topic. Tim Tebow. Good old Tim Tebow. I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. You already know, I was a big Tebow fan in college. I mean, I was impressed by just like, he was able to come in, win a lot of games, lead that team. I think they did like back-to-back national championships. I'm pretty sure he won the Heisman back-to-back as well. I'm not sure. I don't know if he did or
He
not.
lost to Mark Ingram
Oh, he did lose Mark Ingram? Okay. All right.
the second
Yeah.
time.
All right, cool. All right, yeah. He was able to, very successful college career. I always kind of knew he wouldn't really pan out when he got to the NFL. Um, he was able to kind of put together a little bit of a run his rookie year against the Broncos, ended up winning a playoff game, even though the player was offsides and they wasn't a call. That penalty was not called in that overtime win that they had in the first round. I'm just kind of like, I'm really thrown off as to why he's still chasing this dream. I mean, I don't really know what he has to prove or gain at this point, but I mean, the guy was doing college game day here and there, doing a little minor league for the Mets, and I'm a little confused by this move.
Yeah. I would say I never bought into the Tim Tebow hype. Obviously, he was a good college player, but I always looked at it from when he was coming in doing those bullshit jump passes. Chris Leak would bring him up 75, 80 yards up the field, and then they would bring him in to steal his touchdowns to do a jump pass. It's kind of, and when that was very irritating to me to sit there and watch. I thought he was a very good college player. If you look, actually, not nearly as much of a runner as Tebow, but if you look, they actually have the same amount of passing touchdowns. Both have 88. And when you consider that Tebow probably he had 6 of Tebow's 88 touchdowns came his rookie year. There could have been 6 more for League. But sometimes I was just looking at that. So I never really bought into it. I think he obviously was, I just thought he was a media darling. And I generally don't like any media darlings. I don't buy into he was perfect. He was, the John 316 on the cheeks and I just thought it was a whole bunch of hype marketing machine. So I kind of never liked, I thought it was, and just looking into him, I think he got opportunity, especially then when you consider how they didn't draft quote unquote running quarterbacks, black quarterbacks. He got drafted higher than anybody else would have probably got drafted in that circumstance. So I think he's just been the poster boy of privilege. As far as just getting playing time early on stealing playing time from a great quarterback early on, to walking into a fantastic situation, to getting drafted player probably 2 or 3 rounds higher than anybody else in a similar circumstance had been drafted. Yeah. Now you'll see them get drafted more frequently, a player similar to that ilk. Then that was completely on, nope, nobody got drafted that high.
Yep.
So I would say take that all the way to where we are now. I think he's probably a bit of a narcissist. He just can't give up the limelight. He sees his coach there. He thinks I can rekindle this and I can make something of it. I just think it's really a joke. It's sad. It's sad to watch them take a position away from somebody that rightfully deserves it. And I know there's going to be a free agent tight end this year that comes out and dominates.
Yeah.
That could make them be a better ball club.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, 200-something players were drafted this year. I mean, you mean to tell me that there's not one tight end out there that, the Jaguars could look at drafting over him? I just don't really I'm literally I want to ask Tim Tebow, what are you trying to accomplish? Like what are you trying to get out of coming back to the league this late, like in life, like after being out of the league for like 5, 6, 7 years? Like, I mean, is the goal just like a Super Bowl? Like, I mean, I think coaching, he could have definitely got a head coaching spot back in Florida or something along those lines. Like, I kind of expected maybe something like that from a player or a person that's kind of like where he's at with things, but I just don't understand it. And like you said, I mean, I think it's, definitely it was very overrated, very overhyped. Pretty much from jump. Urban Meyer, I just don't like. What I don't like about it is they're gonna try to find a way to like implement him and kind of have him like vulturing,
Force the ball.
vulturing like red zone scores, things along those lines. Like they're gonna try to, we're kind of like using it as a way to like maybe protect Trevor Lawrence and bring him along without like having him screw up too much. And they're gonna kind of create this thing where Urban Meyer, he's gonna learn very early on that some of that stuff that you was able to run in college is not gonna fly in the NFL.
Agreed.
I mean,
Especially with a guy that's 34 years old that
yeah,
was never great at doing it before.
right.
It's not like you've had okay, this is clearly a body of work that he did this in the NFL for a while. No, he was a joke quarterback. I seen a list of quarterbacks that he has lower completion percentage than. We laugh at every one of those guys. Laugh him out of any conversation. And he's lowest on that list. Lower than Marcus Russell, Johnny Manziel, like people we didn't even really watch, like Kelly Smith, like people that you hear about. It's just like, and he's lower than all of those guys. It's crazy. And he's never, I think he's 0 of 4 or 0 of 7 on career catches. Oh, no target. Like it's.
Oh yeah, 7 targets, no catches. Yeah.
2 hits in the head.
Yeah, like it was just one of those, like, for me, I think Urban Meyer's really missed the mark on this one. It just doesn't make sense at all. Like I don't, it's like I said, it'd be one of them things where once like the pads get put on and the season really starts, like who knows, he might not even make the team. You know what I mean? Like I can't see him coming as a tight end and beating out other players that have played tight end their entire career.
I agree with that. But if he's showing, I don't think you even do all this if you're not really going to sign him, though.
Yeah.
I think because
that's true.
And if you're forcing people to ball, then they're going to have, this worked in 2009. Remember when we ran this versus Alabama in 2009? We could do that here. It's like you said, it's jeopardizing the team, jeopardizing Trevor Lawrence development. It is kind of like an amateur thing. It's like something you do to kind of rile up some,
just unnecessary pressure to a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach. Like this is the last thing you need is to bring in something like this into your locker room that's just going to create a lot more like unwanted attention. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. They will sell tickets. They'll probably, Tebow jerseys, Trevor Lawrence jerseys will probably be flying off the racks. That'll probably be something that they'll definitely be able to take advantage of. It's just more like I saw something that said the Jaguars are like the worst, like kind of like fan base, like support just from like a monetary perspective. Like last year, I mean, they were worse than a lot of teams that you would think that probably don't have the greatest fan base either. So that that'd be something I can definitely take advantage of, at least from off the field, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it working from a monetary standpoint, but I don't think. I think it's definitely added pressure to Lawrence, but even he has to be looking at this like, is my coach a joke?
Mm-hmm.
Like even he has to be, everybody in that locker room, everybody has to say like, what truly is like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We can. There's, I don't know. I just think it's kind of a joke, and I more or less want to see it explode on it. When it all comes down to him sometime, just trying to force the ball and him get lit up by somebody. I'm not gonna lie if I say I find that enjoyable.
Yeah.
So maybe.
I agree. I'm right there with you, man. Like I said, we'll definitely see, how this unfolds. It'll be.
We can get one of them Reggie Bush when he got popped coming out the backfield. We can get one of them.
Welcome back to the NFL. Yeah. You already saw Devin Bush from Michigan. He already was like, I can't wait till we play Jacksonville.
And I think everybody be teeing up on him, even in practice.
Yeah.
In everywhere. Why not? You're a big target.
It's a 34-year-old person that basically was able to, 34-year-old guy that was able to sign because he knows he has a relationship with the coach. Like people can be like, oh, I'm trying to get this 53-man roster. I'm about to like light up Tim Tebow. That's gonna help me make this roster. So he's definitely gonna have a bounty on his head I know you said like he'll most likely make the team just because they signed him like they would. I don't know why they wouldn't sign him, but I have seen times where guys get signed and kind of get to training camp and they're like,
Yeah, I
I
ain't
don't
feeling it.
know. Sorry,
Yeah,
So this probably won't happen in his situation just because he is who he is and he was brought in because he played under
yeah,
the coach, but all in due time. All in due
agree.
time.
Yeah,
So
it'll be fun to see. Fun to play out.
absolutely.
Good.
But yeah, just gonna pivot here back to the NBA. I mean, that's the sport that's in season right now. We're gonna talk a little bit about the playoff picture, and also kind of wanted to chat about, like I said earlier, Dwayne Casey and that extension that he got from the Pistons. But um, yeah, let's start off with the Eastern Conference, man. I mean, it looks like off the top of the head, I think I saw earlier it was Philly, Milwaukee, no Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. Um,
Nets, Heat, Knicks, Celtics, Hornets.
okay.
That's top eight.
It's interesting seeing like Atlanta, New York,
Yeah,
you know, Hornets in there like that. I'm kind of excited for that. You know what I mean? Like, imagine the
yeah. There's a couple
Garden.
of teams in there.
Imagine the Garden being like, lit up like that first, those first couple games of that playoff
Yeah,
series. That's gonna be that would have been really dope to see. But yeah, I mean,
I agree.
what are your thoughts? Like, I know you're kind of pulling from the Nets. Your boy KD. I mean, what do you? They're in first place, lost four straight, ended up losing first place. They're most likely going to be
Yeah,
looking at a matchup with Milwaukee now, second round,
yep.
with them going to the second seed. So what do you think there?
I think obviously you would have wanted to get that first seed just for home court advantage in general. I still think the beast in the East is going to be Embiid to see what he can do. I think it all kind of flow through him and how dominant his playoff run is. If he has, I think a dominant Embiid playoff run could take a team farther than almost anybody else dominant playoff, other than the second probably to KD in the East.
Mhm.
So I would say that's kind of interesting to me, but I still like them. I think I mean you see what Harden did yesterday. He came back mad efficient. He's got buckets. Team rested up. It was like I looked across the board. Everybody played like 27 minutes, 24 minutes. So it was kind of a real smooth game for him.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see it all kind of come together as playoff hit. But some of the other teams in the East that interest me, I think Giannis, he was hitting up shots versus the Nets a couple weeks ago. I think that's hit or miss. I don't think he's going to be able to do that for a 7-game series. I think you might get a game or two of that, and then ultimately, I think he's going to revert back to the struggles behind the line or the struggles to just hit an open jumper, and
Mhm.
that kind of all make that process fall apart.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if he's hot, I mean, obviously they're rolling, but that doesn't scare me because I think his inconsistency would keep them kind of on at bay. The Knicks, I just like them, kind of a rough team.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be. I get you see how it plans out. I wouldn't be shocked to see them knock somebody off or take somebody to the ropes. First round, second round. They're a pretty solid team. Very very good defensively. Uh, Celtics. I don't know. With Jalen Brown going down, it's kind of hard to say how far Tatum can take them. But it's kind of just a team. They might get blown up. I think we brought that up a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That it might be time for them to kind of just time out and
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. No, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. Just that alone. I mean, I think it's time for them to. They're kind of running this like, they got these like guys that can play the one through the three, and then like, they did have that guy Tice that was like undersized, like center. They ended up shipping him out. Now they got Tristan Thompson. That's just like he's like a rebounder, very like limited as far as like offensive like skill. I just don't love how they try to like make these different like combinations to play this like odd small ball to where, and I just feel like there's not enough ball to go around. You got like Tatum, Walker, Brown, Marcus Smart,
smart.
I like him. He can kind of like, he does like everything else. He doesn't really care about trying to score like, 25, 30 a night, which so he kind of works out, but I won't be surprised if they get like move some of them guys around. But yeah, no, I agree. I like the New York Knicks. I'm a Julius Randle. I'm becoming a bigger fan every day. You definitely called it on him when he was in college. I definitely noticed like, watching him like at the Pelicans when he, left the Lakers and went there. And then, I mean, he's been averaging like 19 to
He's been
20 a game for the last three
He's been
years.
leveling up.
Yeah, I mean, they might as well give him the most improved trophy. They could have gave him to like a month ago, and
Yeah.
like nobody would have even argued or thought twice about it. They're definitely a team I think that free agency. They can get like, a nice like scorer, like a 2 or a 3. They might be
Yep.
something to reckon with. Cool to see the Hawks in there. It's crazy because they were like 12th or 13th and their coach got fired. Then they got Nate McMillan, who got fired from Indiana after getting, swept against Miami
Yeah.
in the playoffs. He's turned them all the way around. I mean, they clinched the spot yesterday, with like 2-3 games left in the season. Trae Young's playing well. They put them on. I like that they put them on TV a couple times the last few nights, and they got some guys for sure, like
They do.
Bogdanovich, Collins, Capella.
I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of Trae Young. I like his game. I just he's a little mini Steph.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what he's gonna do. And he's just if he's on, it's it's over. Nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So I like his game a lot. I like that team a lot, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, South Squad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the Nets. I mean, they're in favorite until otherwise. I mean, I feel like they might maybe go 6 games with like Milwaukee. I will say Milwaukee, like they have like Drew Holiday now, so he can kind of take a little bit of the load off. It's him. They got my man's that or Middleton, take a little bit of pressure off of Giannis in a way to where I think, you know what I'm saying, where he might be able to get more open shots and teams really can't key in on him how Miami did in the playoffs last year. But I think, for me, I think it will kind of end up going. I think that's the favorite, but the Sixers are definitely that team that can kind of like push them to the brink because they ain't going to have, I mean, Embiid should average 40 and 20 that entire series if he really wants to. Like, they have nobody that can stop him on that team. So, it'll be really interesting. So what?
To stay on the block.
Yeah, like he don't need to shoot no threes. I mean, he needs to go to the line 12 to 15 times a night. 35 and 14, 3 or 4. Like he could legit do that night in, night out if he really wants to. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, now we can skip over to the West.
Yeah.
It's if you would ask me how the playoffs would have looked in the West, if you would ask me how it looked in the East, I probably could have came up with something similar to that. I'd be thinking. I would have never guessed that the Suns would be sitting at second in the West or that the Jazz be at first. So it's interesting out there. It's kind of I guess I'll ask you this. I don't really know what to think about some of the teams. So how do you feel like the West will play out?
It's just hard telling when you got LeBron in your conference.
Right.
Because obviously it don't really matter what seed he's gonna be at. He's gonna definitely like what kind of sucks about them being a 1 or a 2 seed. They might have to see LeBron and AD first round. And that's just that's a bad draw. But I think Utah, like I don't really love them because they just shoot way too many threes. They kind of got this like Houston Rockets thing going to where they fire off like 43s a night, hit like 17 of them. Clarkson he just gets the ball and just doesn't. I like him. He just gets the ball, does not pass. He just score first. Like they told him like you need to try to go score the ball. Donovan Mitchell's a little banged up right now, so I mean, if he gets back, and he's like healthy. I think they can definitely make some noise. And then even like Phoenix, I love Chris Paul. I don't think Chris Paul gets enough respect. Devin Booker, it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts, like his first time, like let me step back for a second. Utah, they have playoff experience, so they do have that working for them. But back to Phoenix, they really don't, besides like Chris Paul and maybe like a couple other players on the roster. It'll really just depend on who they end up drawing as far as like that first round matchup. A lot of guys tend to struggle a little bit when it's their first time in the playoffs. And after that, I mean, it's kind of like a crapshoot. You got Denver. Denver might be able to make a little bit of noise. Clippers, they're kind of in that, in that spot where they'll end up probably drawing like Portland. First round might be able to handle them relatively easily. It's kind of dependent. Kawhi Leonard can't stay healthy. He's still just kind of like in and out. I see a lot more question marks probably on the West side, on the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is like, okay, we know like 2 teams that probably should be there, that probably will be there. Western Conference is like, okay, LeBron, I do expect them to like win their first round matchup, and then that'll kind of just really blow things up to where things could really kind of like, be a little more unpredictable. So
we'll fall in place for the Lakers. Is it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with you on the Jazz. I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I do. I don't love the Suns. but I do think it's a very interesting combination with Chris Paul just being a floor general.
Yep.
Probably best point guard in the West, but floor general.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Probably he's not the best at the best point guard, but I would love to go to war with him compared to him. So I think he's him running the show. Booker can go off. Aiden is a solid in the post. I think I think they could potentially be kind of tough for some people, and I
Yeah.
also could see them just falling apart. So I'm not gonna lie about that, but I could see them potentially being a little tough, with Chris Paul's. Chris Paul could always hit a lucky shot, not lucky, but a clutch shot.
Yeah.
Uh, Booker can go off. So I
Hmm.
think, like you said, if he doesn't crumble too much in the playoffs, but then typically speaking, uh, you don't crumble in the playoffs when he's been in the league 5 6 years, so it's not like he's super young. He
Right.
does have a lot of experience. It's not like he's coming in 21. So I think
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that. The
Yeah.
Trailblazers are
Yep.
hot as hell, 9-1.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what were you about to say about
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, like, there are obviously times where guys are able to kind of come in their first time in playoffs and really like produce. I feel like I wouldn't even say I've seen more times than not. It's always kind of depends. Like, you just never kind of like really know. Like, some guys kind of
right?
get in there. I mean, like an example, like Dame Lillard, his first couple times in the playoffs, he was able to do well, but then he like kind of like just struggled really, really bad, in some of
Mm-hmm.
those series and things along those lines. And I mean, that's kind of how it works out, as far as it kind of depends on how that player feeling, or like how that series is starting to kind of like unfold as you kind of get into like games 3 and 4, things start to get a little bit close. But yeah, I mean, Chris Paul, I mean, he took Houston to 7 games with that
Yep.
subpar OKC team last year. Obviously, the circumstances were a little different, just kind of like with it being in the bubble and everything. But yeah, I mean, I'm never, if it's under 3 minutes left and the game is like within, 95, 93, I do expect Chris Paul to kind of like rise above, kind of be that
I
guy
agree.
that the team will need and, kind of make something happen. So,
I agree. Who do you have an issue with the Lakers making it into like if they're in the play in? Is that called like? Are you scared about that? Do you think they're going to take care of business? You want to?
I just like, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of thinking back, like LeBron was kind of in this scenario back in 2018 before he came to the Lakers, and they're like a 5 seed, 4 seed, and they, obviously different conference things along those lines, but they're kind of like, I mean, he's always kind of been able to just like make it happen, to where it's just like, um, it doesn't really matter what seed he is. Like, I mean, he'll definitely have that team ready. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's just like they probably gonna be a 7 or 8 seed, so. I mean, that the pressure gonna be on whoever that 1 or 2 seed gonna end up being. That's really what
Right.
it's gonna come down to. I mean, I feel like as long as he's like healthy, in playoffs is a whole different ball game. AD is starting to get back into his own. I don't really see him having a problem at least getting to the second round. Now that's kind of where it's like, all right, like you end up getting like, I believe like Denver or like um, like a Portland or a Clippers. Like the Clippers, they're gonna be chomping at the bit. Like they are supposed to be the ones that get LA last year. So like if that happens, then it's kind of like, all right, like they got a little more chemistry going and everything like that than the Lakers do because they had LeBron and AD out for so long. So that's where I'll kind of be like, we'll see. But I got
Yeah.
confidence that LeBron will be able to make it shake. And also too, I want to add Warriors. I mean, they're gonna be probably sitting at that 8 spot, and that's another
Yeah.
scenario where I don't see them beating like Phoenix or Utah 4 games, but like if Steph can just make that series a little bit longer than it should be, they'll be in
Yeah.
a tough spot like that second. They'll be in a tough spot that second round.
Agreed. Yeah. You don't want to run this stuff. I feel like
Right.
he can get hot. He'll get hot on you, especially in that one game, that one little playing game. I could see him just going off.
Yeah,
I
just
wouldn't want to play him in that.
trying to pick him up full half court. He just started firing off. Like, I mean, he's had what over 10 threes in a game, like 7, 8 times this year, and like he's just thriving. He's chomping at like he's like drooling right now, just at the opportunity to be able to get back into the playoffs. Like he's literally. People told him, or people were saying, me included, that he couldn't really do much without Clay. I mean, obviously their record kind of shows that they are definitely missing Clay. Like, because I mean, Clay Thompson's like one of the best 2 guards in the league, so of course they're gonna struggle. But like he's just off of pure motivation. Like carrying this team, like willing this team to the playoffs. So if he's able to, get in that front door, it's going to be a task for whoever has to, chase him around for a 7-game series.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think it's a good playoff wrap up.
Yeah.
That's the playoffs approaching us, playing games approaching us soon. So, it's kind of, putting a bow to the season here. It's interesting to see it all play out before we get real crazy with, the playoffs.
Yep.
And, kind of just to wrap up the podcast here, we want to talk about, our beloved Pistons sitting currently at second worst record in the NBA.
Yep.
Couldn't even get the first worst. But, I think, I generally do like where we are. Dwayne Casey, he's apparently our long-term guy. So I think, I can kind of see the picture that we're beginning to paint here. So I like where we're headed. I think, he did a great job with the Raptors, and I think just kind of, trying to mimic what he did there / kind of the new wave of just shedding all your bad contracts, getting young players in.
Yep.
And, I think the biggest key is going to be the roll of the dice, or if the NBA gives us a little help and, gives us a top 2, top 3 pick. First, obviously, we wanted the best, but I think anywhere in that top 3, we could begin to really shape a good franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great to give him an extension, so it shows that like they're going to give him time. I just hope they give him support. And I think this new GM, I mean, he was very active in the draft, getting those 3. They're all starting right now, if I'm not mistaken. Those 3.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart. I mean, these are guys that I think could definitely. They're all. I've seen them all averaging over 10 points a game, at least for the last half, 2-3 weeks of the season. I'm kind of like in this spot now where it's like I love to keep all them, but it's like, okay, do we want to just hold on to them and just like really develop them and have maybe like a solid team like 2023, like start to kind of like come into our own, or do we want to like deal a couple of them and maybe get like pickers, a future pick, like second round pick, get like a solid, star, you know what I mean? Like really kind of start to bring in maybe a couple other role players to kind of like give that team, maybe like boost them a little bit, like to where maybe they could be competing for the playoffs like 2023 and not like 2025, So I hope we can kind of keep all of them and kind of make things like that kind of shake. I mean, Jeremy Grant, I know he's kind of like been like the guy to go to. I know they're thinking about, stealing him here and there. I wouldn't mind, maybe getting off of him and getting a couple like more role players in there, get like another first round pick, something along those lines. But I definitely like where they're going. I mean, Sadiq Bey, like he is overachieved. He should definitely be first team All NBA or All Rookie team, for sure. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, he just reminds me of Ben Wallace. Just he's been dunked on a few times this year, but he's not scared to go up there and protect that rim. And that's something that's just really like people want that in the NBA. That's something that's like missing in the NBA. So people they'll make the right moves to get a player like that. And then Killian Hayes, I mean, he was hurt a lot this year, but I've seen him make some one-handed cross court passes and just really been very crafty with the ball, turning it over a little bit. But I mean, he's a rookie. So he's still kind of rookie that only played like 25 games this year. So he's really starting to find his own. So I like where they're at a lot.
Agreed. I would say, you talk about the timeline, and I would say it's very hard to put a timeline on it when we could have Jalen Suggs on the team, we could have Cade Cunningham on the team, or we could have some dude we never heard of on the team with the 9th pick. So I think it's really hard. So if you land one of those top 2-3 guys, I think then you could say, okay, let's shed the rest of these guys because we know we have a real one here. We know we have Sadiq Bey's legit, Isaiah Stewart's legit, and we got Cunningham. And other than that, everybody else is on the trading block. And I think that's what these are our keepers, and then we're going to build around, everybody else is on they can go.
Yeah.
But I think if you get screwed again in the draft, then I believe you probably should begin just to maybe try to keep a little longer term approach and just try to really develop who you have, because maybe you have to begin to think that that's not going to come about ever, and you can't keep sacrificing and holding them back or whatever. So I think that's kind of how I play that is, if you do get somebody good, you can shed them and try to ramp it up faster. If not, you kind of just got to roll what you got and try to develop it from within.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I hope that we can kind of like, make a big splash in free agency, just get some guys, like, mid-level vets that just, not saying like, I don't want any like washed up guys that are kind of on their way out, but like, some guys that were like, hey, like Jeremy Grant, he wanted to play for a black GM and a black coach. So like, he was totally okay with, making that transition. Maybe some of these guys can get on the horn with some of their like former teammates that are like maybe free agents this summer and just kind of talk to them and be like, hey, we didn't have the greatest record last year, but we hopefully got a top 5 pick.
Yep.
You see how these players play, these 3 rookies played last year. They're going to take, Sadiq Bey the sky is the limit for him. I think he's going to be the one that might make the biggest jump out of the 3 next year. So, if we can maybe just kind of put in a couple more pieces, I would think like we need like maybe like another shooting guard. I would like for them to maybe get like maybe like another wing, maybe like one more like solid like big. They can kind of like rotate in with Miles Plumlee and Grant and Isaiah Stewart. Well, Grant and Plumlee play power forward. I think Stewart plays center. So, just kind of like work one more guy in there, some guys that can kind of like really play at a high level and then groom these rookies and younger guys. Like I think they could put themselves in a solid spot to compete for sure. Because and I'd also started to see, I feel like a lot of teams in the East, like, the Celtics, they're kind of trending down and, like some of these teams here and there, like Miami, they kind of underachieved. They're still going to be solid, but like you definitely teams like Hornets, they're to kind of take advantage of like the East not being as, not being very strong this year, or some people say all, like previous years, but I think they could definitely kind of sneak in and make some noise.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I think we're not too far off the beaten path.
Yep.
I think, I like where we're headed. I think the worst thing we could do is, like you said, go sign, this year's equivalent of Charlie Villanueva or somebody. I think that's the worst thing we can go do, sign this year's Josh Smith and put ourselves back 5 more years just because we're trying to jump forward.
Yeah, you do that. So, they bump Pan out. You're buying them out in 3 years. Like, yeah. So you don't really want that.
Agreed.
But
no, I like where we're at. I like I been doing draft simulators, been doing all this stuff just to kind of pique my interest and I'm excited to see what comes about for that. I'm excited for the playoffs. I think it's a good time for sports. I think it's just been and we're heading into probably second to March Madness as far as I'm concerned, as far as just pure basketball, pure talent, and you've been watching games all night. So I think it's something exciting.
Yeah, this is where I end up losing a decent amount of sleep.
Trying to watch the West Coast games.
Staying up till 12:30, 12:45. But one thing we get to take advantage of this year too, and we'll definitely have an episode before that, but the play-in tournament that goes from like the 18th to the 22nd. So we got that starting like I think it's like next Wednesday.
Yeah.
All the way through the weekend, and then the playoffs start, or all the way through that Friday, and the playoffs start that Saturday. So that'll be that'll be something to definitely. Yeah, I'm just excited. Like you said, it's going to be, this is the best basketball usually that you'll ever see, in a calendar year when the NBA playoffs start. So, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Ready for KD to get the ring.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, ready for the Lakers to make this back-to-back. Make this a little push. We'll see, though.
We'll see. For sure.
We'll see. But yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, that's all we got this time, guys. Definitely tune in next week. We'll be talking more basketball then. But until next time, you guys take it easy.
Sure. Peace.